Hi, I'm Daryl Black. I'm here to help you be the leader that you would want. Today we're going to talk about a concept that we call command climate or leadership climate. So please comment, like, or share widely so we can really spread the word on some of these concepts and really help a lot of people out. So leadership climate is essentially the tone or the mood that is around a leader and within their team environment. It's really hard to put your finger on exactly what it is because there are so many different elements in it, but essentially it's really about the mood. What is that tone that you set when you walk into a room? Equally or more important, when you leave the room, do you leave the room in a certain state as well? So the reason it's important is that we need to recognize that as leaders, what we say matters. What we do matters. How we say it matters. How we act matters. How we communicate with people matters. How we make decisions matters. All of those things. And it sounds like a pretty long list of things that matter, right? Well, too bad, so sad. Leadership is difficult. It really, really is. Even if you're not a formal leader, you will probably have some sort of a climate or an environment or a culture that is around you. Some examples include, I'm going to use a prop here. Yeah, that's right. So I appreciate my son Hunter lending this to me. Not that he knows that I'm using it, but I'm using Darth for good in this example. So when we think of Darth Vader, we obviously are conjuring up pretty negative command climate, pretty negative leadership climate. The officers were very, very fearful for telling him bad news. There was definitely a culture of fear around him. People would give him a wide berth, for example, which makes complete sense because as a leader, some of his conflict resolution techniques like the force choke or even just a physical choke probably wasn't what I would recommend as far as building an empowered workforce, but it worked for him, I suppose. So just through Hollywood, we can see that that's a really good example of a command climate and a good example of a leadership climate. Now, if we looked at Captain Kirk, let's say, Star Trek, I'm sorry, I don't have any action figure there. My son's a Star Wars fan. We would think of a swashbuckler, a confident, sometimes arrogant individual. Even how he talks, as William Shatner would talk, comes to mind. So that is an example of a command climate that we can see him even on the bridge and Bones talking to him and how they interact. And you knew, frankly, if you're wearing a red uniform shirt and you go down to a planet, you're going to die. Like, that's the only episode you're probably in because you're going to get killed by some alien lizard thing or, a blob. I think there was a blob episode too that killed a bunch of those guys. So that's kind of what we're talking about with regard to climate. So I just want to reiterate, what we say as leaders matters. What we do matters. How we say it matters. Everything really matters because people are on our team and the individuals on the teams are consistently and constantly evaluating us. Now, that may not be an overt, like, hey, I'm just going to assess every morning, the command climate or, what the leader is doing. Most of it is actually subconscious. Now, I don't know what the numbers are with regard to what percentage of communication is nonverbal. The numbers vary, but I'm not a mathematician or a psychologist or I'm no ologist at all, and I can only actually just think of a psychologist, so therein lies the point. But suffice to say, we are really interacting on many, many levels, and as leaders, we have to be aware of that. As leaders, we are responsible for driving the culture. We don't actually hold the culture. We do to a certain extent, but the bulk of it is actually held lower down in the organization. But we are responsible for setting that tone. What does right look like with regard to command climate or leadership climate? I know growing up, for example, when my brother and I would get in trouble, mostly him, but my mom would she would give us trouble and she would yell at us and so on and so forth. And we may have been a little bit more dismissive, just saying. But we knew it was like go time when she would say, well, you wait till your father gets home. And that was kind of the awakening for my brother and I to say, ooh, this is not good. And just that is a small example of command climate and leadership climate. The kind of the emotions that are invoked when you think about working with somebody or working for somebody. I find it interesting that we continue to be surprised as leaders when nobody gives us bad information or bad news. And I would ask us to really look inwards and be self-aware as to why that is. Chances are, the reason no one's telling you bad news is because you get angry with them. Even if you actually don't think you're that angry, don't forget your body language plays a role. The words you use, the tone you use, those things go into it. So people, if you have a very good, open, communicative command climate, one that's very positive, you'll actually see the communication flowing back and forth. You'll see information moving. You'll see decisions being made. You'll see empowered people if you create a command climate where that's what right looks like. And it starts with you as the leader. One question that often comes up too is, well, how do we keep people engaged? How do we change direction? How do we keep people motivated? Well, it starts with you as a leader. It starts with me as the leader and that leadership climate. Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it one that people feel stressed out about when they're coming into the office or they're coming into work? Well, if it is, that's a problem, and it's up to you, it's up to me as a leader to change it. So walk the walk, talk the talk. If we say something, do something. All right? So we want to have those married up. If we say we're going to do something, then do it. Be dependable. Be consistent. Be fair. Be supportive. Be empathetic. A whole range of things go into command climate or leadership climate. And it's really, really important. So I'll leave you with this. What we say matters. How we say it matters. What we do matters. And as leaders, like it or not, that is the reality. So it's up to you, it's up to me as leaders to really define what that leadership climate looks like. So be very, very aware. Be self-aware of how your actions are impacting others. And it's really important because you set that tone, you set that mood. And that's part of leadership. It's not always about building widgets, right? And getting the bottom line firmed up or shoring up processes. Leadership is a people business, so you need to understand what we do, our interactions with our team have a huge impact on people. It's the truth, and it's just part of leadership. And no one said leadership was easy, really, and it isn't. It starts with you. Create a good leadership climate that people feel comfortable, people feel safe, they're able to communicate well, they're able to flow, information is able to flow up, down, all around, all of those things. Thanks for watching.